You know that feeling? Just scrolling and scrolling through news feeds?
It's endless sometimes.
And you know a lot is happening, but the actual, significance, it can get lost in all the noise.
Definitely. We get that.
So welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a specific pile of information
And really try to dig into it, find the core insights.
Today, we've got a really interesting set Nigerian newspaper headlines.
Yeah. All dated May 2nd, 2025. It's a wide range, too. Economy, politics, crime.
International relations, even some quirky history facts popped up.
Right. A real snapshot.
So our mission here is pretty straightforward. Give you a clear, engaging overview.
Pull out the main themes, the interesting little details from these specific news reports.
Okay, then. Let's get into it. The economy seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, let's do that. There's a lot happening there. So labor unions, for May Day, they had this 20-point list of demands.
20 points. Wow. Any standouts?
Well, two really caught my eye. They're asking for a tax cut and also a big overhaul of the pension system.
Okay, so right away, that tells you cost of living, long-term security. Those are big worker concerns.
Absolutely. And staying on that theme, the whole minimum wage discussion is very active.
Yeah, I saw that. You've got Akpapolo proposing a N5,000 increase.
Which labor actually commended, interestingly.
Right, but then you compare that to Governor Santiri saying he's already doing N72,000.
While also mentioning, inherited debt. So it really shows the different situations, different political moves across the states.
It really does, and you see these very local responses too, right?
Exactly. Like white quartering council chairs to pay up those minimum wage arrears.
And they confirmed the money for that, N4.16 billion.
Yep, that's the figure reported. And then you've got Ebony with a N10,000 May Day gift. More symbolic, maybe.
Compared to, say, Yusuf approving N15.6 billion in gratuities, that's substantial.
It is. It really paints this picture of, well, a patchwork of approaches to worker pay and welfare at the state level.
Definitely diverse. And the economic pressure isn't just about wages, is it? This petrol landing cost, N800 per liter.
Yeah, that one jumped out. Especially because it's reported as higher than the price from Dangote's refinery.
Okay, now that's fascinating. What does that even mean? Is the domestic refinery just way more efficient? Or maybe cheaper crude access?
Or, are there still bottlenecks or weird things happening in the wider fuel supply chain? It raises big questions about the market structure.
For sure. And it's not just fuel. Everyday costs seem to be creeping up.
Like bank SMS alert charges up 50%.
Ouch. And NIMC, the Identity Commission, hiking fees for their services too.
Yeah, these might seem small one by one, but add them all up.
Yeah.
It hits the average person's wallet.
Definitely. On a much bigger scale, though, there's positive news with the African Development Bank.
Right. The AFDB launching that $650 million yearly economic support initiative for Nigeria.
That's significant. Sustained funding like that could really help, boost development projects, maybe spur growth.
And if you look at Lagos State generating $582.45 billion in revenue just in Q1.
Whoa.
It really highlights its role as, the economic engine.
No kidding. And at the same time, you have the RMAFC, the Revenue Allocation Commission.
Yeah, they're proposing a review of the revenue sharing formula every 5 years.
So how the federal money gets split between federal, state, local governments, a regular review suggests they're trying to keep it fair, I guess.
Seems like it. And looking ahead, Governor Bago in Niger State promising subsidized electric cars for workers.
Electric cars. Okay, that's forward thinking, you could say.
It is, especially with the global push for green transport.
Yeah.
We'll have to see how that actually pans out, implementation-wise.
True. Okay, let's switch gears a bit. Crime and justice. The EFCC seems busy.
Yeah, they mentioned tracing these cross-border electronic funds. CBEX funds, they called it.
Okay.
Trace them to 4 different countries. Really shows how international financial crime is.
And they also arrested some Kaduna Electric staff for an employment scam.
That's right. So anti-corruption efforts hitting different sectors.
We're also seeing older cases surface. An ex-cop wanted for a murder back in 2015.
Yeah, it just shows law enforcement doesn't always give up, even after years.
But then you also have a court freeing a father who was accused of assault. So, it highlights the complexities in legal cases.
Definitely. And on the international front, that Nigeria-UK Pact Against Crime Networks sounds important.
Yeah, cooperation is key for cross-border crime. But then you read about abductions. 4 women in Bayelsa, a farm manager in Kebbi.
It's concerning. Shows the security challenges are still very real on the ground in places.
And this story, just wow. A victim from that Kaduna train attack actually ran into his abductor at a mosque.
Can you imagine? It's unsettling. Just
Oh.
shows the strange and sometimes disturbing ways lives can intersect after something like that.
Truly bizarre. Okay, what about accountability within institutions?
Well, we see some examples. Last Me in Lagos, dismissing and demoting officers for misconduct.
Traffic management, right?
And Alessipa.
The environmental agency, yeah. Shutting down businesses for violations, so attempts at enforcement. And the Lagos chief judge pushing for ECOWAS court judgments to be enforced. That points to respecting regional legal standards.
Good point. Oh, and a bit of good news, those arrested Ikiti athletes were freed.
Ah, okay. Right, let's turn to politics and governance now. Lots of movement there.
Seems like it. President Tinubu had his May Day message, reaffirming commitment to workers. Standard stuff.
But also traveled to Katsina, congratulated Wema Bank, gives you a sense of his wider schedule.
And Vice President Shetiba is focused on improving Hajj operations.
Which ties into those reports about Saudi Arabia finding unauthorized pilgrims, right? Shows the coordination needed.
Exactly. Then there's this back and forth between Akpabio and Natasha about needing evidence for claims.
Yes. Politics being politics. Scrutiny demands for proof.
And the student loan issue seems quite contentious.
Yeah, the FG and the vice chancellors are getting heat, but NEL-FNA denies any mismanagement.
The core issue seems to be around how accessible and, well, how well the scheme is actually working for students.
Important stuff. Meanwhile, Wike's off to China for the FCT water project.
Shows Nigeria still relies heavily on international partners for big infrastructure.
And back home, Wike's allies are criticizing Governor Dearie, state-level politics bubbling up.
It seems so. Plus, you have LP members reportedly jumping ship to PDP in Enugu.
Oh, interesting. Defections.
And that planned dialogue between Wikes and Fubera, with Asoba mediating, shows attempts to manage these political dynamics.
Right. What else on the governance front?
The Northeast Governors Forum met in Yobe number 11. So, regional cooperation there.
And Chief Anyaoku trying to get former governors together to push for a new constitution.
Yeah, that could be a significant push for major reform if it gains traction.
We also saw Governor Uzodimma reversing an acting CJ appointment after the NJC stepped in.
Shows the power and role of the National Judicial Council in, upholding judicial standards.
And can the Christian Association telling its zonal leaders not to speak for the whole group?
Looks like an effort to centralize their message. Maybe avoid conflicting statements.
Makes sense. In Akwa Ibom, the NLC and TUC gave Governor Eno a vote of confidence.
So some positive feedback from labor there. But then the NLC is also urging the administrator in Rivers to help Fubara return peacefully.
Labor weighing in on political stability, too.
Seems like it. And finally, lots of tributes being paid to Chief Edwin Clark, from the Ohanis president and others.
A testament to his long influence, clearly. And the government repeating its commitment to Hajj operations again.
Yeah, reinforcing that it's a priority.
Okay, let's talk security. There were those reports about explosions in Maiduguri.
Right. Initially, it sounded like things were returning to normal after a blast near a barracks.
But then
a later report clarified it was actually explosions at an armory in Borno, possibly caused by extreme heat.
Okay. Shows how initial reports need verification, especially in sensitive areas.
Definitely. And there are reports of a Boko Haram resurgence, prompting a joint response from Northeast governors.
Still a major challenge, then. Governor Zulum's comment about their sacred responsibility really drives that home.
It does. And shifting focus, road safety is a huge issue. 73 deaths, nearly 400 injuries on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway in just 3 months.
That's horrific, just staggering number.
It really is. And on infrastructure, an update on the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, only Section 1 is reported as 70% complete.
So still a long way to go on that massive project.
Seems so. Okay, what about other social issues or miscellaneous news?
Well, JMB warned students about a fake payment website, important consumer protection there.
Yes, and sadly, news about a Nigerian nurse found dead in the UK. Just tragic.
Awful. On a lighter note, Davido's comment about the UK media coining Afrobeats.
Yeah. An interesting take on how genre names catch on internationally.
And E-Money warning people about spraying Naira notes after that EFCC arrest.
A very practical reminder about currency regulations these days.
What else? NNS, the Student Association, is asking TET Fund and L Fund for help with the student health crisis.
Yeah, highlighting wider welfare needs beyond just tuition fees.
And the NLC in Adamawa says the state civil service is overstretched and ill-equipped.
Raises questions about public sector capacity there.
Then you have Oyetola promising better welfare for maritime workers. Specific sector focus.
And Sokoto State partnering with NNPC for free eye surgery. That's a nice social initiative.
Good to see. Kwara's planning 15 new schools investment in education infrastructure.
And finally, farming news. Gombe farmers waiting for rain. IIT distributing inputs in Oyo. The agricultural cycle continues.
Right. Now, scattered amongst all this were some fascinating historical bits and pieces.
Yeah, like the Berlin Wall, 155 kilometers long. Not just a wall, but fences, security complex.
And its fall in '89, such a huge moment.
Definitely. And then on the total opposite scale, the stapes bone in your ear.
The smallest bone in the body, right? Like 3 by 2.5 millimeters.
Tiny, but crucial for hearing.
We were also reminded that Osama bin Laden was killed on this date back in 2011.
A very significant event in recent history.
And thinking about the Iron Curtain falling, Hungary dismantling its border fence in '89 was a key early step, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Kind of paved the way for the bigger changes that followed soon after.
Yeah. And finally, there was that quote included from Sarah Dessen.
You should never be surprised when someone treats you with respect. You should expect it.
That feels relevant, doesn't it? With all the talk about workers' rights, governance, accountability, basic dignity.
It really resonates.
So wrapping this up, what's the big picture from this May 2nd snapshot?
Well, it shows Nigeria dealing with a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Economic pressures are clearly high. Security challenges persist. The political scene is very dynamic.
Yeah, lots of maneuvering, but you also see efforts towards social programs, infrastructure, trying to move things forward amidst the challenges.
Exactly. It's a complex mix. This deep dive gives you that condensed view, showing how interconnected everything is: the economy, politics, society.
Absolutely. So here's a final thought for you listening. Looking at all these different stories, wage debates, security incidents, political talks, social initiatives, which one do you think has the biggest potential impact on Nigeria's near future?
Yeah. And what makes it so impactful? It's interesting to consider how these separate threads might weave together down the line.
It really is. Thanks for joining us for this deep